Hi everyone, Coldon here with another VOX Immortalis commentary guide. This video is for Heroic Atramedes in Blackwing Descent, and of course it shows the 10-man version. There are two major differences between normal and heroic for this fight. They're not too dramatic, however, but the first one, and probably the most important, is the addition of a mob type called Obnoxious Fiend. They spawn about every 45 seconds during the ground phase, so you'll get 2 per ground phase. And they latch on to a targeted player and then chain cast an ability called Obnoxious, which is 1.5 second cast, and it increases that player's sound level by 10 every time it successfully casts. However, they can and should be interrupted during this cast, but do note that if you stun them, it has no effect and they continue to cast their ability through it. So it's best to use interrupts and then just have DPS focus them down. You saw a Fiend that came up right there. They also start off in a phase-shifted mode, so they can't be targeted or attacked until they actually latch onto their selected player, at which point they become attackable and you can kill them. You can also hand a protection the person that gets targeted if you want them to switch to another target, but note that that will put them back into phase-shifted mode, so just be aware of that. The other major change from normal is that Nefarian will, once per ground phase, destroy one of the gongs on the outside of the room. So if you do it properly, you'll use 1 gong for Searing Flame, he'll destroy 1 gong, and then you'll use 1 gong during the air phase. So that's basically 3 per total phase transition. This of course means that you get 3 air phases, and then you must kill Atramedes within that next ground phase. You'll have 1 final gong for the Searing Flame, and then you'll be out. So your DPS needs to be, reasonable. One thing that's probably worth noting is that we first tried this with 3 healers, just figuring it would be difficult, and of course 1 tank. But our Paladin and Shaman healer were able to keep the healing going just fine by themselves. So I switched to pretty mediocre cat DPS, which is what I'm doing here. But all the DPS you can get helps, and since you're really not limited to the hard Berserk timer, and instead it's just to the gong limits, you need enough to, like I said, finish him during that 4th ground phase. The other major change on normals, you can see we're using a stacking strategy, which was really a big factor in this, and it basically revolves around having the raid stack up in front of him on the tank. I should mention, if you see there, just before Searing Flames, there's a slightly opaque frame that comes up in front of me. I'm sure a lot of people will ask about it. So that's a add-on called Atramedes Shield Clicker. I'll post the link in the comments or in the description. But basically, it's very simple. It creates a frame over the majority of your UI just before Searing Flames happens. So this allows you to interact with the frame only and not click on things in the background. So you basically spam right-click on the location of a gong, and as soon as the flames actually starts to cast, the frame will disappear, and it will cause you to click. So this makes it very, very easy to ensure you only get 1 tick of the flames. It's pretty hacksy, but I highly suggest it. So other than that, the air phase is just like normal. He'll target someone with his tracking randomly, so everyone needs to be sort of moving. You'll also generally have a Fiend alive as the phase starts, so once your DPS determine that they're not being tracked, they should quickly interrupt and kill off the Fiend that's left over. And otherwise, the person that clicks on the gong after the first target should have a movement speed buff, so generally our Enhancement Shaman does it. But if he gets targeted with the first one, then I grab it as a Feral Druid. And so I should explain, you can kind of see it here, but because we're stacked up here during the ground phase, the basic idea is that we know where all the discs are going, since they always go toward a player. So the raid itself moves to the left every time discs spawn, and when someone gets targeted by Sonic Breath, they move to the right. There are situations where discs and breath happen simultaneously, so it's really up to the player that gets tracking to quickly move through. It's also a good idea for your entire raid to move left when Sonic Breath casts, just so they don't accidentally take that first tick of it, and just basically pretend that it's a spawn of discs. But this is really the key to the fight. The Obnoxious Fiend is not that bad. It dies really fast. The air phase is just like normal. So pretty much all that you need to do is to manage your sound levels and then have high enough DPS to get through it. The healing isn't too bad. Tanking damage is really low. So it's just really all about people getting used to dodging the discs and the breath. And this fight, we had never tried heroic, and it took us about a dozen attempts to get the kill, which you see here. So all in all, it's not really that difficult of a fight. I should also mention that people may ask about sort of warnings that you're seeing coming up. Those are part of they're warnings we set up through a Weak Auras add-on. And again, I'll include the URL in the description for those that are interested. But it's just stuff to help us out since there's not really official boss mods released for this yet. And so it sort of lets you know things like when the fiends have spawned and when they're actually attackable, and when you're getting targeted by tracking, so you can quickly know to sidestep it, things like that. And that's really all there is to it. Just avoid everything that's avoidable, and make sure your DPS is high enough, and you shouldn't have much trouble. Good luck, and thanks for watching.